Hey church, this is Vince Miller. Thank you so much for joining me for another devotional. Big shout out today to Dave Martin from Columbia, Tennessee, who faithfully shares our devotional with about 25 of his favorite guys, he said. And so if you're one of those favorite guys today enjoying one of these devotionals, thank you for following Dave as he follows Jesus. And I pray that this will be a blessing to all of you today. John chapter 19, verse 1. It reads, "Then Pilate took Jesus and flogged him. Flogged him." Now, it's just kind of a short transitory remark here by John, but it bears a painful reality. Basically, here's what's happening. The Jews want Jesus to be crucified, right? But Pilate finds him innocent of any wrongdoing. So Pilate attempts to avoid crucifying him, so he presents Jesus back to the Jews innocent, and they refuse. So he presents them with the proposition to release one of two people, Jesus Barabbas, a criminal, or Jesus of Nazareth, the innocent one. Now they choose, of course, to release the criminal and crucify Jesus. This means that Pilate's first move to prevent the crucifixion of an innocent man doesn't work. But now he resorts to another plan. Here it is. Harsh punishment that Romans called flogging. And I think what Pilate's hoping here is that flogging will appease the Jews. Now, guys, there were three types of Roman flogging during the time of Jesus. And I got to be honest, these words are in Latin. I'll be able to define them, but pronouncing these words is going to be difficult for me. So I'm going to say them fast so it sounds like I know what I'm saying. All right, here's the first one. It was called Fustiagatio. And this was a mild form of whipping. It was a warning lash, essentially, for those not so serious crimes. Think of it like a strong scolding with a whip, as it wasn't meant to actually cause harm. It was used to incite a person to not do something again, kind of like a spanking for a kid. The second one is called Flogging, not to be confused with flagellation, by the way, which was a more serious act of flogging. It was severe, but not meant to kill a person. It was used to bring a subject into full submission. Imagine the Jewish punishment of 40 lashes minus 1, which would bring a subject close to death, but not unto death. Now, the third one is called Barabbas, and this was the harshest and most brutal form of flogging. It involved using a rod with whips to which were attached things like spikes and bones and bits of metal at the end. These whips would then tear into a human, stripping large pieces of flesh from a subject's body, causing extreme pain. In fact, we get the word excruciating from this experience right here, from this whip. Now, many times a subject didn't survive one of these floggings and their body was still hung on a cross afterwards. And how cruel this flogging was depended a lot on the cruelty of the person inflicting it. Death was often expected with this type of punishment. Now, fellows, of course, most theologians actually assert that it was the third type of flogging that Jesus received in verse 1 here. So this wasn't a slap in the face. This was a punishment that was excruciating and scarring and maiming for life, from which there was no return for any man. But in this we see something unique. For the first and only time in all of history, we witness a truly innocent sufferer. Jesus, the only sinless man to ever live, suffered sin's punishment at the hands of sinful man. No other man is innocent, and thus no man has ever suffered innocently, even though we think we do, other than, of course, Jesus. Here are a few verses for you today to reflect on in light of this. The first one is Romans 3:23. You know it. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. That's everybody, fellas, everybody. Isaiah 53 reads, but he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement, the whipping, that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. 2 Corinthians 5:21, for our sake he made him to be sin, who knew no sin, sinless, so that in him we might become what? The righteousness of God. And then finally, the words of John. John chapter 1, verse 29, as spoken by John the Baptist. Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Fellas, today, here's what I want you to do. Worship the spotless Lamb of God who suffered for you innocently so that you might know the righteousness of God. I love you guys. I pray this blesses you. If it has, share it with someone else just like Dave Martin does, and I'll see you right back here again tomorrow.